guys, so over the past month, we have talked about a couple different skills. We've talked about multiplication, division, order of operations, and volume. And coming up after fall break, you guys will take your first quarter, what we call in the 5th grade, check-in. So it is basically an EOQ, but it has a little less questions than what a typical EOQ would have for math. So today we are going to talk about two of the big skills that we've talked about this quarter, which is order of operations and volume. And these are two of the skills that you will be tested on the check-in when we return from fall break. So we're going to start with order of operations, and I'm going to list out a couple different problems here on the board, but you're going to notice similarities in all of them. So the first one So when we talked about order of operations, we talked about something called PEMDAS, or GEMS. When we talked about GEMS, we talked about the G being for grouping symbols, E being for exponents, M being for multiplication and division, and S being for addition and subtraction. Remembering that when we solve for multiplication, multiplication or division, it's whichever one comes first when you're going from left to right. So as I'm reading that problem across, which one comes first? If you talked about PEMDAS with your teacher, then it looks like this: addition, subtraction, division, and multiplication. And again, we circle those to make sure that we understand that it's whichever one comes first from left to right. So I'm going to begin up at the top by solving this problem. 8 times 5 plus 4. What operation is going to come first here? So if you think about it, which one's going to be first? If I look over here at GEMS or at PEMDAS, I notice that the M for multiplication comes before the A and the S for addition and subtraction. So that means that I'm going to have to work my multiplication first. So I know that 8 times 5 is 40. And then I always rewrite my problem. That is a best practice here. Rewriting your problem to make sure that you understand what you still have left to do. So then I have 40 plus 4 left to do, and that is 44. So my answer for this one is 44. So then, if we look down here at the second one, it's changed just a little bit. 8 plus 5 minus 4. Still the same numbers, but our operations have changed. So I need to look back over here again at what comes first. I have addition and I have subtraction. Well, I know they're grouped together, so it's whichever one comes first from left to right. So as I start my finger here from the left and move it over, I notice that I run into addition first. So that means that addition is going to come first. So I know that 8 plus 5, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So that's 13. And then I'm going to rewrite minus 4. So 13 minus 4, I'm going to work that one over to the side here. So that gives me 9. So my answer to this one is 9. Notice, same numbers, a little bit different operations. Instead of the multiplication, we have the subtraction, but huge differences in answers. Okay? So looking at the next one, 8 minus 5 times 4. So again, if I look over here, which one is going to come first? So for this problem here, multiplication is actually going to come first. But if you notice, 5 times 4 is 20, and I go to rewrite this problem, 8 minus 20, that's not going to work for us. So I need to figure out, there's something that I can add around the 8 minus 5 here in order to say that I need to do it first. Can anybody tell me what those are called? Good, those are called parentheses, so I'm going to add parentheses around 8 minus 5. That means the P or the G, grouping symbols or parentheses, I have to do that first. So 8 minus 5 I know is 3, and then I rewrite it 3 times 4. So 3 times 4 I know is 12. So that means that the answer to this problem is going to be 12. And last but not least, down here at the bottom, I notice that I have multiplication and division. So again, I have to look at this M and D and this M. And again, it's whichever one comes first from left to right. So as I move my marker across, I run into multiplication first. So that's what I'm going to be solving. 8 times 5 is 40. Then I divide it by 4. And 40 divided by 4 is 10. So the answer to this equation is 10. So we will continue to talk about order of operations, but I'm going to go ahead and go into volume for the next piece. And a lot of you guys have probably worked with Unifix cubes this week to find volume, but on here we are actually going to talk about volume as the formula. So I'm going to draw a rectangular prism. And I can remember that volume equals length times width times height. So those are the 3 numbers that I'm going to have in order to find the volume. So my length is 4, my width is 2, and my height here is 5. So if I look at that and I need to set that up into this equation, then it would be 4 times 2 times 5. And really here we just have another order of operations problem. I have to start from left to right, so that means that I have to start here at the 4 times 2. And I know that 4 times 2 is 8, and then I rewrite 8 times 5. I know that is 40. So the volume of my prism here is 40, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have talked about how to label this. I'm going to label it cubic units because I didn't give it a label as far as inches, centimeters, meters, those kinds of things. So I'm going to stick it with the label CU for cubic units. Okay? So I can draw another one down here, and this one's going to be my cube. There's something special about cubes that are similar to squares. Can anybody think about what that is? So a cube is just a square pulled out, and we know that squares have all 4 equal sides. So on this one, because it is a cube, the length is going to be 3, the width is 3, and the height is 3. So if I'm looking to find the volume of this figure here, then it's just going to be 3 times 3 times 3. So if I'm looking at this, again, another order of operations problem, 3 times 3 is 9, and then I have to rewrite 9 times 3, and that gives me 27. Again, I'm going to label it CU for cubic units. So we are still going to be talking about these things all throughout this week, and then we will have a couple days next week to review before the check-in. Please make sure that you're asking your teacher questions if you do have them, and good luck next week on the EOQ.